So namaskar, Madhavan ji, and really a very warm welcome to you in the Bay Area. I think you're coming for the first time, so really excited and excited about your project Rocketry. When the lives of the people in the army go away, they say in US here, and Memorial Day was just a few days back, and they say all gave some, but some gave all. And I believe Mr. Nambi Narayanan, he paid the price for his patriotism, which he should never have. He should have been honored earlier rather than he had to go back, fight, and then ask for, to catch someone who made a conspiracy against him. And do we still know, because you did so much research, you are in direct contact with Nambi ji. So the first part of my question is, do we know the reason and the people behind the conspiracy, what it will take to get those people punished, why they haven't been punished till date? Has the movie touched that part? Number one, so the real conspiracy, basically, who did it, why they did it, and whether they have been caught. And number two, like during the making of the film, I heard that you had also traveled to Russia, and the weather there was bad, but the shooting wrapped up faster than what you expected. So tell us about your memories.
Going to your first question, and Dr. Nambi Narayanan always says that this again is a true story. So everything that we've shown in the film right up to today is not just documented, but it's also the verdicts of the court. So we have a substantial, how do you say it, sir? We have substantial, the court, no, it's not the verdicts, what is it called?
No, whatever is shown in the movie is supported by the verdict in the various courts. There were more than 19 cases all over in this affair. So we have judgments. So
judgments.
All the judgments, you have the proof of what is being told.
So, is it an investigative film? No, it's all, I told you, it's a biopic film. My job was not to do the job of the police or the court or the FBI or the CIA or the, the Indian RAW or anything. That is not what my film is all about. Here, like you said correctly, people who give their all should be appreciated and recognized, because that's how a country continues to stay great. And that's the whole way that we've shot the film. We not only shot in Russia, we shot in a lot of countries, 6-7 countries, France, Georgia, Canada, India. So, as a director, it was, and a producer, so I've not just directed the film, I've written it, produced and acted in it, so it was a horrifying nightmare thinking about it every day. But I went on to the set to an extraordinary team and an extraordinary person's story, which was actually just not me, but the 300 people on the set were all so motivated, wanting to tell his story, that I don't think any day felt like a tough challenge. It was a challenge, and it was tough, but it didn't feel like a horrible day. At the end of the day, we all came back and sat down, looked at each other and smiled. And that's how it's continued through the pandemic as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
दिल ना किसी से लगाना, झूठे हैं यार के वादे सारे, झूठी है प्यार की कसमें। मैंने हर लम्हा जिसे चाहा, जिसे पूजा, उसी ने यारों मेरा दिल तोड़ा तोड़ा, तन्हा तन्हा छोड़ा।
हाँ तो यार हम तो कह रहे हैं कि पिक्चर में गाने वाली है नहीं और रोमांस नहीं है, पर मैं आपको बता दूँ ये आदमी देखने में जितने अच्छे हैं, इनका एक सीन है इस फिल्म में जो मुझे लगता है कि इससे रोमांटिक सीन मैंने लाइफ में कभी नहीं किया। फिल्म के दूसरे भाग में आता है और ये हमेशा कहते हैं कि ये अच्छे पिता अच्छे हस्बैंड नहीं बन पाए, पर एक सीन है जहाँ पे मुझे लगता है कि अगर मैं औरत होता और मुझे को ऐसा करता तो मैं जिंदगी भर नहीं ना 7 जन्म तक इसके साथ ही नहीं। But the same thing they said about Hindi Supreme when I made a Tamil film, which at the final round they said negative title and stuff. But what else could be a better title for a film which was about Dr. Narayanan's achievement? So I said, you know, let it be an odd name. Even now when I go to people and say, what movie are you? I say Rocketry. They can't even pronounce it. But once you see the trailer and you know it, then like dentistry, Rocketry becomes a common word, and that's how I was hoping to happen.
Hope all this grand preparation is worth the outcome.
If you think this is such a futile exercise, why are you even here?
I'm here because what happened to me should never happen to anybody else in this country.
£200 million equipment స్కాట్లాండ్ ని ఫ్రీగా అడగడం పిచ్చి కదా? ఇక్కడ నుండి సైంటిస్టుల్ని ఫ్రాన్స్ కి తీసుకెళ్లి ఫ్రెంచ్ వాళ్ళకన్నా బెటర్ ఇంజిన్ తయారు.
I had the privilege of making this movie, not because that's how I started off. I started off because somebody came and said there's a story of an Indian rocket scientist who was caught in an espionage case because he had an affair with a Maldivian woman, and then he was an ISRO scientist, and then he proved himself to be innocent, and they left him. So I thought, you know, after all the mundane stories that I'm doing, this will be fun. It'll be, you know, it's like a James Bond film, rocket scientist, beautiful Maldivian woman. And that's the shallow attitude with which I went and met Dr. Narayanan. But when I met Dr. Narayanan, something just hit me right then and there, because I knew that I was missing something important. I knew I was missing something really, really big. And I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't understand what I was missing, because this man did look like somebody who would have had who was just about having a false case and proving himself innocent. There was anger and angst in his eyes, and there was this shock and what do you call, a frustration that how can he put this sort of an allegation on somebody like me? He was not talking about anything else except the case. He was saying he knew everything about the case, when he was arrested, how he was beaten, how he was tortured, who did it, what happened. And I got caught up with all that. And to tell you how this film actually came about, what the reason behind this film is, and I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that when you see this film, I don't know how good a director, actor or a storyteller I am, but the facts of this film will actually churn your guts and it'll make you feel, and the purpose of this film is that no other Narayanan should happen, not just in India, but anywhere else in the world.
I will only prove, I will be able to convince you that it is the truth. So that way we have taken the movie. But at the same time, it shouldn't appear like a documentary. So that is the job Madhavan has taken. He has understood more or less what is rocketry, and not very deep into it, but peripherally he knows how the pump system works, how the turbine works, and what is a vortex, and what is the behavior of gunpowder, etc., etc. And also the characters. See, we are dealing with people like Kalam, Satish Dhawan, Dr. Sarabhai. So he has taken pain in casting the right people. Just by looking at it, you will say that it is Kalam. Nobody need to say that. So that way he has done the job extremely well. I think I should say that he has developed a passion for it, more or less like a davam, you know, which he has to do it. So he has done it. Now I have learned how to take and shoot a movie. Before, when it started, I never could believe that this is happening to me. In fact, this story of espionage started October 20th, 1994, and I was arrested 50 days later, that is November 30th. So during that period, we were talking among ourselves, what could have gone wrong? Who is this Madhavan woman? What is happening, etc. But then finally it turned out that I was more or less becoming the target of the whole thing. And you understand it that when I was arrested, within 5 days, the case was handed over to CBI. And the first day when CBI took over this case, it was 5th of December. 6th and 7th, the case is over already. There is nothing more for these people to investigate, because I gave them a rundown. From evening 7 or 8 it started and went all the way up to early morning 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock.
From, like I've been saying earlier, from Aryabhatta to the Indian Almanac to, Rajaraja Cholan, who had the biggest navy, and that went all the way to Angkor Wat. Those kind of technological as well as, expeditions that we've done have never been shown in the film, because I think our directors were not engineeringly inclined. When James Cameron or when they make movies like Interstellar or Inception, you go to the theater wondering if you are smart enough to understand that director who is actually giving off a vibe of being a scientist.
Right.
I want that kind of movies to come out of India, simply because we are phenomenal in space and travel and science and technology and IT and medical sciences. So I want the storytellers, the producers, the directors to look at that direction and give these awe-inspiring stories about these people. Which is why I, being technically inclined and engineeringly inclined, I understood what Dr. Nambi had achieved as a rocket scientist. So if I'm making a film on a runner or a cricketer or a badminton player or a singer, it's easy for me to show you what they do well by just showing you on the screen that this is how he runs. So he runs like the wind, it's visible. How do I tell you what a rocket scientist does? How do I show you the difference between a good rocket scientist and a genius rocket scientist? And then how do I make the public understand what the genius scientist has achieved? So that's why I had to actually learn a fair amount of rocket science.
Vikas is itself a tribute to the founder of ISRO, Vikram Sarabhai. It's an open cycle liquid fuel rocket engine that uses unsymmetrical dimethyl hydrazine, or UDMH for short, as a fuel, and nitrogen tetroxide, or N2O4, as an oxidizer. UDMH is a hypergolic fuel. That means if it comes in contact with the oxidizer, it ignites itself without the need of any external combustion source. These two primary propellants flow through all the plumbings that you see here. The fuel and oxidizers are stored in the big tanks in the rocket body. There are pumps and turbines on a shaft inside this casing. Here are the main lines that bring fuel and oxidizer, the pogo accumulator devices. Also, you can see the exhaust line of the gas generator, the high pressure fuel manifold, turbine and pump casing, the plate where the engine is mounted to the rocket, the water pump, two thrust vector control actuators, combustion chamber and the exhaust nozzle, and also this blue donut shaped water tank through which the water is pumped to the gas generator for cooling.
நான் இங்க ஒரு கேரக்டர் சர்டிஃபிகேட் வாங்கவோ இல்லை ஒரு பாப்புலாரிட்டி கான்டெஸ்ட் ஜெயிக்கவோ வரல. ஒரு மிஷனுக்காக வந்திருக்கேன், அவ்வளவுதான். Now it's time for you to take us to the stars. என்ன பார்த்தா எப்படி தெரியுது? நான் ஒரு ராக்கெட் சயின்டிஸ்ட்.
We couldn't have asked for a better stage to showcase this film. Thank you so very much.
My project is the one which has yielded these required results. It can tell you in a way why this is a successful project, why some other projects are not success. We certainly got stationed in France for more than, and the total period was something like 100 man-years. So we had our own engineers working there, and their hands-on experience and understanding the whole technology. The absorption of the technology in this method was so great. That is the reason why we have a highly reliable Vikas engine.
Only one message to the youngsters, whether he is scientist or otherwise. I think if you believe in certain things and if you are convinced that there's a right thing to do and there's a right way to go, don't bother about somebody else telling you differently. Go by what your consciousness tells you. That is the only message I want to give.
There are two books we have already written. One is in English, Ready to Fire. Actually, this was written by Mr. Arun Ram, who is the resident editor of the Times of India now. Another one in Malayalam. So these are the two books already available, and they are good sales.
പിന്നെന്തിനാ വന്നേ? ഞാനെന്തിനാ വന്നാന്നു?
ലോകം 60-70 ടണ്ണുള്ള എഞ്ചിൻ നിർമ്മിക്കുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ 600 കിലോയുള്ള ഹാക്രി സാധനങ്ങൾ വെച്ചാണ് കളിക്കുന്നത് സർ. ഇത് റോക്കറ്ററി അല്ല സർ, വെറും പപ്പറ്ററി. ഈ റോക്കറ്റ്സ് കൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ സാറ്റലൈറ്റ്സ് കമേഴ്ഷ്യൽ ആയിട്ട് ലോഞ്ച് ചെയ്യിക്കണം. ഭാവിയിൽ $1 ട്രില്യൺ മാർക്കറ്റിൽ നമുക്കൊരു പങ്കുണ്ടാവണം. അതിലാണ് സർ നമ്മുടെ അധികാര അന്തസ്സുള്ളത്.
Dr. Nambi is just average middle class gentleman, I mean in terms of his earnings and stuff like that. But he was able to get justice in India. It took a long time, but he did get justice. The judiciary did work for him, the Supreme Court did favor him, did give him the Padma Bhushan, he did get the compensation. So there is hope for people who keep complaining that things don't like that happen in our country. It does happen.
One small thing I want to add here is, though you all know it is a difficult task which I have gone through, but imagine yourself with limited financial resource, with practically no support from anybody, fighting two mighty governments, one in the center and one in the state, for 27 years is not a joke.
श्री शंकर लिंगम नंबी नारायणन विज्ञान एवं इंजीनियरिंग.
Most times when you make biopics, you need to add a little bit of cinematic liberties to it to make it palatable as cinema. But I promise you that with this film, not only did I not do that, I also had to put a large stone on my heart and actually become a butcher and take out facts from the story to make this film believable. And I kid you not, I had a bigger problem than what other storytellers have. I didn't know which parts to take out. This man's story is actually, it's a crime to try and tell his story within 2.5 hours, because the gambit of his achievements not just are restricted to the scientific achievements. He's somebody who's achieved in administration, in negotiation tactics, in how to take the country forward in quantum leaps by negotiations with countries and making deals, in reinventing the wheel as far as the law is concerned. He's a rocket scientist, but to fight his own case in the Supreme Court, he learned law. So how do you encompass all that in one movie? I just had to take one unidirectional movie about what really happened to him and what should never happen to anybody else in this country, and I have stuck to the fact like a hound. And there is not an element of cinematic liberty taken from it.
The facts of this film will actually churn your guts.
One of the things I remembered, there was an actor called Vincent Riota. We had some extraordinary actors in the film. Like I was saying at the press conference today, Shah Rukh Khan sir, Surya, Vincent Riota, Ronald Donaghey, Felix Logan, all these people who are from Game of Thrones and all of them just read the script and said we want to be part of the film. They barely took any money, which is ridiculous. And Shah Rukh and Surya didn't take anything. In fact, they put money by paying for their own assistants and their flights. But as a director, I remember sitting in front of Vincent Riota. And when you do an over-shoulder shot, you keep the camera here, and I'm being Nambi Narayanan, and he's being my professor, he's playing Professor Crocco, and I'm looking at him, and I have to say my lines, and he will react, and he will say his lines. It's his shot, so the camera is kept behind me. So I'm looking at him, and I'm saying the lines that I'm supposed to give as a cue. And he's acting, and he's like, after the shot was over, he says, Madhavan, you please remember when you're the director and when you're Nambi Narayanan. Don't give me the cue like a director. Please give it that Nambi Narayanan because it's throwing me off. And I realized how important it was because I was looking at him like that. Yeah. And he's like, you're unnerving me, man. So I had to be very careful as a director and an actor because it was so difficult. I mean, you have Shah Rukh sir sitting there and I'm calling action. So I'm also observing his performance. At the same time, I'm acting like Nambi Narayanan. And it's a double, if it's a two-shot, very difficult to know when to be the director and when to be the actor. So how much I have done, how well I have done, or whether I have completely screwed it up, we'll come to know the first of July.